All right, in this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual performing at PAWFC 3, which transpires on March the 9th. And we've got that vacant PAWFC flyweight title on the line as Larissa Carvalho and Kate Bacik get out there to test skills. And great getting to have Kate on the show to talk about all of that. How's your day going so far, Kate?
Hey, thanks for having me on your show. It's been okay, just busy with training and everything, but everything's going well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, a lot to talk about with this fight, but I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on the last year there because I saw you had a post talking about how, in a way, it was ridiculous, but also in a certain sense, one of the best years of your life. It seemed like you were able to have a great run, getting 3 straight wins and everything like that after the pro debut didn't necessarily go your way there. So it seemed like a great year overall. Like, how would you encapsulate your 2023 effort and everything?
Yeah, obviously, like my pro debut, it was kind of an unlucky decision, which I don't really agree with, but that was a while ago. And then obviously last year, I kind of struggled to get a fight, like even the end of the previous year. Before that, I had like so many issues. I had fights even being cancelled on the fight day, like after weigh-ins and everything's already done. And then in 2023, like I couldn't really get any fights. And I remained in fight camp for like 50 months non-stop, basically. And then all of my 3 fights were basically on short notice. Like I had one in March, which was like a few weeks notice, but it wasn't too bad, maybe like 3 weeks notice. And then I literally couldn't get a fight until I think like mid-November when I took a fight on like less than 2 days notice. And I literally came straight from sparring to cut weight and fought the next day, you know. And then after that, I literally had a fight 2 weeks later on like 5-6 days notice. So yeah, I made it happen eventually in the very end of the year. But it's been a very bumpy road that year. So I'm just happy things worked out the way they did. And obviously, like I'm starting this year a little bit better, having a bit better opportunities and a bit more notice as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, it seems like based on how you laid everything out there, it seems like some of these short notice fights you were taking was, in a certain sense, informed by how difficult it was to lock in some of these matchups and everything. Like, is there something that's beneficial in a way about that? I mean, you seem like someone who has like that lifestyle of a martial artist and would be ready whenever. Like, is there something you glean from these experiences of, you know, stepping up on such short notice and getting great results?
I mean, I don't mind, you know, like I was in a position where I literally had to do whatever it takes to just stay active because I couldn't allow myself to have another year where it's so difficult to get a fight and to stay at the same, you know, same place I was for so long. So I didn't really have any like second thoughts or doubts when it came to accepting those opportunities when they were there. I would never say no to an opportunity. If I can make it work, I will, you know. So, obviously, it's much better to have more notice, so you're able to work on certain things, work them out, have more time to prepare, so on and so forth. But, you know, like, you got to do what you got to do. And, like, I do hope one day I'm going to be able to do, like, a proper 8-week camp just to know how it feels. But for now, I'll just do what I can, you know, take what I can take.
I guess just going off of that, like, when did this PAWFC fight get on your radar? Like, when did the bout offer come your way and everything?
So I think about 3 weeks ago, maybe. I think 3 weeks ago. So I think it's a total of like 5 weeks to prepare, which is actually probably the most I've ever had.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know if because I feel like some fighters get into the idea of being able to travel a touch in attachment to their work as a fighter. Like, obviously, you're focused on the fight in a paramount, very, you know, blinders on kind of way. But is there a cool aspect to getting to fight in Canada and kind of being there and all that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's one of the things that I love the most about MMA and about fighting is having those opportunities to travel the world. Because from like where I come from, my background, I think like I would never be able to travel like that if it wasn't for what I do, you know. So being able to see countries like Canada, you know, that's amazing. Like not many people from where I grew up will be able to say they can do that. So it's great, you know, having the chance to do so, and whilst doing something that I love as well, and I combine the two.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's interesting. So this wasn't. It kind of struck me as something that you maybe didn't even conceptualize as like a core dream when you were younger. Maybe like I think I'd seen some interviews where you were talking about how you weren't even super immersed in athletics per se, but it seemed like there was a certain like fighting culture growing up in Poland and everything from what I was seeing there. So was it always something you were naturally kind of disposed to in a certain sense, even outside of like an athletic competition context, I guess?
Yeah, so see, this is a funny thing. Like, I was never really into sports. Like, I never really liked sports. I was never good in any sport. Like, I wasn't really interested. I was more of like an artist, and I was doing all sorts of other things. Like, maybe the only like sport I liked was like football, was just because it was always me and the boys just like playing football. And, like, there was a lot more to it, and the whole fan base and stuff. But ever since I remember, I always used to get into fights, and like I kind of like the thrill of it, like since early days. And obviously, like I got kicked out of schools and stuff, and I got into loads of trouble, like throughout my childhood and like teenagers. And I've always been told how like this behavior and like the fighting and stuff is never gonna take me anywhere. And then obviously I kind of like took a different angle of all of that, and it actually takes me places.
Yeah, it seemed like from an interview I was referencing, like you were talking about, I guess, the earlier street fighting days, but when you got more into like training Muay Thai and just being immersed in martial arts, it seemed like it not only got you out of that culture of street fighting, but just a better lifestyle in general. Like it seems like it really just helped you in sort of all facets. Is that something that martial arts has really done for you? It seems like it's like a really multifaceted, beneficial thing in your life, just like a real net positive in a lot of regards.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. Like we're all faced with certain choices at certain points in our life, and like depending on what choice we make, our life can turn out one way or another. And I think at the time when I started Muay Thai, and when I actually stepped my foot in the gym for the first time, that was this like big decision time. And if I didn't do it, I'm not sure where my life would be right now, where I would be with everything right now, because being able to start training then kind of took me out of very toxic environments and like very dangerous situations, and the path I was on was definitely not leading me to anywhere good. And I can see that comparing myself with the people that I was surrounded by at the time, and like how their lives turned out compared to where I ended up being. And that's not just with martial arts, because the discipline and like all of the like positive values I managed to like welcome into my life because of starting training, allowed me to, get 2 degrees, allowed me to move out of, the environment I didn't really want to be in, and to do something with my life, and not just, in terms of the sport, in terms of MMA. So I'm not sure where I would be with everything if I didn't go to that gym that day and then decide that I want to come back and then carry on with it, because it did really give me motivation to get out of those like bad situations and the lifestyle and the path I was on.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. I mean, it's awesome to hear that you, I guess, noticed that kind of surrounding dynamic and just really put in that diligent work to rise above it. And it seems like you have a great collective around you now with Great Britain top team, so love to see it.
Yeah, definitely.
And also some cross-training work from what I was able to parse from some of the research I did. Like, it seemed like you were in Las Vegas last December there getting in work with people like Claude Gigadelia and stuff like that. So it seems like a healthy mix of like getting to cross-train a bit and get other looks, but have that core sort of base you're established at, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to mix it up. Whenever I travel, I always train with the people that are there, and like I always learn something from coaches from other gyms and stuff. I'm very open to learning from everyone and anyone. Everyone's got something that they can give me, like whatever little element I can borrow from them in the game, and I can kind of like mix in with what I already have. It's definitely going to benefit me. So I love doing that. I love learning from other fighters too.
Yeah, no doubt. It seems like you've had some great spaces over the years. You've really honed the skills at like New Wave Academy, Croydon, I was noticing, and Kenshiro Gym in Brighton. So yeah, a lot of great looks all throughout the career. I love that about martial arts and all.
Yeah, 100%.
And something I also saw in one of those excerpts that I thought was cool, I saw you finished university with degrees in fine arts and neuroscience. I think that's really cool. Like, obviously your fighting career is of paramount focus right now, but is there something that you have in terms of like a career path in your head with that when you're done fighting? Because that sounds really cool. I thought that was interesting to read through.
Yes, I see. This is the funny thing. Like both of my degrees, it wasn't really me getting into studying them because I thought of it like career-wise that I wanna work in the field. It was more just like, oh, I find this really interesting. This is what I like doing. So why not like get into it deeper? So I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll be able to use those degrees and do something, because it's still my passion. Like both art and neuroscience is things that I'm still very much interested in, but at the moment, like my full focus is on MMA and just making my career out of it. And then obviously once I'm done with fighting, I'll look into my options, and there will be options. But this is important. It's MMA is not my only passion, so I'll have things to fall back onto in that aspect at least.
No, for sure, and I appreciate that distinction. That's cool that it's just more oriented to like something you were intrigued by, so wanted to fervently pursue it. Like, how much do you think that's informed your growth in MMA? Because it seems like you had the striking base at an earlier kind of age, but even then subsequently, it seemed like you really found that passion and I guess that intense work ethic and learning curve with like the grappling portion. I guess how much of that mentality and your feeling with things you're passionate about, how much has that like informed your progression overall, you'd say?
I think everything adds up, and I'm this type of person. When I start doing something, I want to be the best at it. I want to do as much as I can. I want to learn as much as I can. I can't just settle on like just enough or just being average. Like I want to explore as much as I can, and I want to try as much as I can and work hard. So like jiu-jitsu, like grappling, wrestling, all of that wasn't really my goal like years ago when I was still doing striking, and I've never thought of myself that I would actually be competing like professional grappling, or I would be interested in that sort of thing. But obviously after starting MMA, I realized this is what I need. That's where my weakness was at, and then not being able to get enough MMA and like striking fights, I basically started competing in grappling a lot, and I realized I'm good at it. And then that carried on, and like now, like obviously I've still trained striking for a lot longer than grappling, but I've achieved more in grappling than striking over years. So it kind of added up to my game, and like gives me confidence because I know wherever the fight takes me, like I've got experience everywhere.
Yeah, no doubt. And I just love the, I guess, generations of martial arts and paying forward the knowledge and stuff like that. Like when I saw you were coached by Brad Pickett, I thought that was so cool. I mean, I remember watching him in like WEC and UFC back in the day. Just cool to see that different lineage, like you kind of like unfurling your story presently and him kind of imparting whatever knowledge he has and everything like that. So love to see that too.
Definitely, it's honestly amazing to be coached by guys of this caliber and like legends like this. Like there's a lot I can learn from people like Brad or Ash or like my striking coach Daniel Sam. Like plenty of people around me, and not only coaches, not only like the veterans of the game, but even like other fighters from other promotions. That I train with every day. Some of them coach me. Some of them just by sparring with me, they allow me to learn from them, which is amazing. It's amazing to be surrounded by so many very talented athletes and coaches and just great people overall.
Yeah, it's awesome stuff. Great martial arts culture and everything like that. And I guess kind of redirecting the focus to your opponent here, because I talk to different fighters and it seems like sometimes they're into tape study to a degree of like finding out every facet of the person's life, it seems like, whereas some fighters are, I guess, more focused on just kind of having that flow state and just doing what they can do best in the body of the fight and not being overly preoccupied with what the opponent might do and kind of losing sight of that. Like, where are you at in that kind of sense, like in terms of the tape study and all?
I'm not someone that likes to study tape too much or like get into too much details in terms of like what my opponent is doing, how they fight, the style. Like, obviously you've got to be aware of it just to kind of like know you should be focusing on, but obviously my career goes beyond this fight, beyond this opponent, and I've had so many camps where my opponent changes last minute or something happens that affects the whole game plan and stuff. So you can't never really have like a 100% certain game plan for any of the fights. So my focus is mostly on like what I can improve in my game. What am I strengths and weaknesses, where I am right now, and like what do I feel like I need to be working on more. What do I want to do in this fight? What do I want to show? And being someone who takes loads of fights on like short notice and always kind of stays ready, always trains like his camp, I just focus on myself more than anything else. And I believe when my physical preparation as well as my mental preparation is on point, I can face anyone, no matter what their game plan for me is. It doesn't matter, because I know what I want to do, and that guides me through. And like obviously once I look into that flu state, once I'm there and I know my preparation is over and I did everything I could, I've got the confidence that I'm the better fighter no matter who's in front of me.
Yeah, for sure, and I don't know if I misconstrued the statement, because obviously I wouldn't ask this in a way to maybe divulge elements of whatever your game plan is, but is there a certain idea of a kind of statement you want to make or something you want to, I guess, impart with this performance, just kind of in line with what we were talking about there?
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to show that I'm well-rounded, that no matter where this fight takes me or where I take it, I'll be able to show my skills fully. And I'm a different fighter now than I even was in my last fight in December. I've already grown, I've already improved in so many areas, and not only as a fighter, not only as an athlete, I've grown as a person. I've sacrificed a lot of things to be here right now, even in the last few weeks. Like I've done a lot of work on myself. Psychologically, spiritually. It's not just the physical preparation. So I'm a completely different person now, and I'm the strongest I've ever been, 100% mentally, 100% physically, and I'm ready to show everyone that, this is just the beginning for me still, but I'm levels above where I was even a couple of months ago.
Yeah, for sure, and many more chapters of the story to unfurl, as you said, but is there something, I guess, particularly special in terms of, like, this being a title fight? Like, is it sort of like a almost like milestone, like necessary evolution moment in this broader journey that you have? I guess, how do you perceive the vacant title aspect of this fight?
Oh yeah, definitely, it's amazing. This is gonna be my first professional title fight, and I'm gonna be the main event as well, like headlining the event, which is a great honor. I'm super grateful. I feel blessed that so early in my career, only 4 fights in, being offered this opportunity. That means people around me, people out there, they see something special in me, and I feel like I'm honored, and I'm super grateful for this. And obviously having 5 rounds to works better for me, because I'm the type of fighter that the longer the fight goes on, the better I get. So if we do need those 5 rounds, I know that this is going to work in my favor as well, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to win this belt.
And I guess kind of in line with that, I'm sort of curious, because I guess one could make the easy inference that perhaps this is a multi-fight agreement with Pallas Athena by virtue of it being a title fight, but I'd also seen a story going around that Invicta FC had signed you. Like, what's the, I guess, contractual dynamics? Like, obviously this fight is of paramount focus now, but I guess I'm curious about that.
So yeah, I've been signed to Invicta since, like, I think June last year, but so far I've not fought on any of the shows yet. I did fight an Invicta girl, also signed with them, same weight class, but on a different show last December. But at the moment, Invicta doesn't really have any solid plans for me. That's why I'm free to do this fight. And obviously, like, I take it fight by fight, so I can't really tell you exactly what the future is going to bring. I'd like to focus on this fight first, but from what I know, my management's got a solid idea of like what we're going to do career-wise this year, and it's looking good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally understand the sentiment as you impart it there. Just such an interesting time. Like, I feel like Pallas Athena has done such a good job so far. I mean, they're still relatively early on in their journey, but it seems like the shows I've seen so far and the caliber of fighters they bring in and everything, it just seems like such a high level of professionalism. And yeah, I just love the way they promote their shows and everything like that. And I mean, yeah, main event, like you said, so quite a long way from the early days in the Cyprus amateur career there, where they were not letting like the women on the fight posters and all that garbage.
Yeah, definitely. It brings back memories.
Yeah, no, just kind of underscores a certain part of the journey, and just, yeah, like you said, many more cool things to happen from here on out. But yeah, it's been great getting to talk to you, Kate. You've already done a lot of cool stuff in the fight game so far. I guess like one question that I had, I'm kind of a fan of the nickname backstories, I suppose. Like, where did you get your moniker from there, Queen of the South? I quite enjoy that as a nickname, but like, what's the backstory on that, I suppose?
So there's a few different things that kind of contributed to it. One of them being like I was born in the south of Poland, and then I've lived in like 5 different countries since, and like every time it's the south of the country as well. And obviously like I'm very connected to South London as well. I've been connected to it for the last few years, so it's solid few years. But it wasn't until like lockdown time when, like training wasn't that available and there were very limited places we could train at. And I've done a lot of training with my friends in South Croydon, with the place called Southside Kings Academy. And I was basically there every day, and for most of the time I was the only woman training there. And it was just like a running joke between me and a few friends, being like, it's Southside Kings Academy, but you like the Southside Queen, like the Queen of the South, So that's where they kind of like solidify it.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's a great nickname for sure, and definitely, adds a lot of intrigue. I think it draws people into seeing the fighting, and it's like, oh yeah, she's an exciting fighter to watch too. This is sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you love to see that, but you've been great with your time, Kate. I appreciate all of the great insights you've imparted during the chat, and just, really looking forward to this fight, but just in the interest of being mindful of your time and schedule, I'm curious if maybe you have a final parting thought you wanted to add as we're kind of wrapping up here.
I really enjoyed this interview. I had a good time talking to you. You have some great questions, and you did your research, which is always nice to see for a change.
Have you had a couple interviews where you got the sense that maybe they hadn't done the homework, done the legwork, as it were?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few interviews, and there's still more to come. A lot of people want to talk, but I just really don't like answering like the same kind of generic questions over and over again. So I'm always happy when there's an interview like this one where, like you've actually done your research and you're asking questions that matter. There are questions that are a little bit different than the usual like staple ones.
Oh, thanks so much. I just want to put in that kind of effort so that it's also engaging for the fighters. And I was kind of just even saying that playfully. I'm not trying to even put down other interviewers. I just appreciate the sentiment, and I'm really going to appreciate this Pallas Athena fight card. Really stoked for March 9th. And this Larissa Carvalho fight is going to be incredible to watch. So looking forward to seeing what happens with that flyweight title fight and who kind of takes on that vacant throne and everything like that. But to reiterate, thanks for the time, Cade, and you have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, on this episode of MMA Canada Radio, very excited to be talking to an individual competing on the next Pallas Athena event, which goes down on March 9th, and PAWFC 3 featuring Miranda Barber and Khaya MacKillop testing skills. And great getting to have Khaya on MMA Canada Radio for the very first time. How's your day going so far there?
It's going really good. Super nice and sunny, so I went on a walk and stuff, but that's about it so far.
Yeah, good way to... Yeah, no, good way to start the day, and I'm doing all right. I get to talk to fighters doing cool things, so that's always a good day for me.
For sure.
But I guess in saying that, this being the pro debut, this seems like a big moment in a lot of fighters' careers, obviously, and, after a 2-0 amateur run there, like, why did now feel like the right juncture to make the professional debut?
I felt like it was the right time because it takes a long time to get amateur fights and stuff, and, like, so many fall through, and it was a year between both of them, and I just kind of want to get the ball rolling, and I feel like I'm ready, and I don't know, just rip the Band-Aid off and go for it, I guess.
Yeah, and when did mixed martial arts kind of get on the radar? Because I was seeing, like, the depth of wrestling experience that you have. Was that always to, I guess, eventually serve some sort of master of getting into MMA eventually? And if that's not the case, like, when did MMA kind of get on your radar as, like, a viable sort of option?
Well, I started with striking when I was young, or karate, and then went into striking, and then I really wanted to compete, like, a lot, and there wasn't much, like, kickboxing or Muay Thai or whatever. So then my coach was like, why don't you go into wrestling? Which kind of opened my eyes to like MMA as well. So I kind of started wrestling for MMA when I was a kid, but I had so much time before I could even compete in MMA that it kind of took off on its own little thing for a while. And then once COVID hit, I was like, oh, I'm going to start training for MMA now because it's the perfect time.
Yeah, and it seems like you've been working with some great people to really, like, I mean, obviously you said you had the striking base previously, but, like, amalgamating them within MMA, like, it seems like working with people like Chris Prickett and whatnot, it just seems like such, you know, great individuals to sort of, like, transfer, like, the base level wrestling skill into more of, like, an MMA kind of framework and kind of add the nuances within there.
For sure. I've had some really great people and coaches that I've gotten to train with, and I've gotten to go to a lot of cool gyms and have had good role models, like female role models as well. So it's been really awesome getting into MMA and living the life.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Are you predominantly rather still at Niagara top team these days, or are you training? I mean, you mentioned like multiple gyms there, so I guess I'm curious in that sense.
I haven't been at Niagara for a while. I had to move back home, so I'm from Victoria, British Columbia, so I'm from the West Coast. So I was there for almost 2 years, and then I have been home for just a little over a year now. And I've been training in Vancouver, Victoria, and I've gone down to Syndicate a lot this year. So I was there for 3 months, and I just got back before Christmas.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't get more info on the Syndicate experience. That seems like such an amazing space for, you know, some of the best martial artists around the world. So yeah, curious to get some insights on that experience.
No, that was super cool. I went the first time in May, and then I went again in June, had my second amateur fight in July, which was in Vegas. So I got to do my camp there. And then I was supposed to have a fight in another amateur fight end of October, but there was some injuries, so that got canceled. And I was out there training, though, for like 3 months, and I got to train with some really cool people and have some really high-level coaches and stuff. And I love the weather and everything, so it's really cool being down in Vegas.
Yeah, in Vancouver, another place. I mean, BC in general, I feel like there's a ton of great gyms and fighters out there. Like, what are some of the predominant spaces you're getting in work at there?
When I'm, like, at home, I work. When I'm on the island, I'm with at Pedirex and West Coast Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then when I'm in Vancouver, I've been training at Universal.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, it just seems like great looks all around, so I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, and it's nice because when I'm home, or for this camp, I've gotten to train with Sarah. I got to train Sarah Kaufman a little bit, which was nice because she lives in Victoria as well, so that's really cool. She's like a OG women's MMA fighter, so it's nice to get to go with high-level women as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's such a legend, and you talked about some people who really have kind of come out as role models in your life and along this MMA journey. I imagine she's one of many figures within that, so that's great.
Yeah, for sure, especially because we're from the same place, so it's really cool.
I guess saying that, who would you, I guess, describe as like some other women that have kind of emerged as role models? I mean, you've got to work in so many great gyms as we've kind of outlined there and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. When I've been at Syndicate, like JoJo and Ramona, they've both been really great people, and great partners and people to like inspire, and they've gone the path, so it's cool to get to hear their stories and stuff. I've also gotten to train with Marina. She's PFL. She's 145, and she's an awesome training partner to get beat up by sometimes. Yeah, and then when I was at Niagara, there was Jasmine Jasvizius, which she's awesome as well. So I've gotten a bunch of to train with a bunch of women who are at the level that I want to be at. So it's really nice to get to have been around them and talk to them and just have people, that I get to strive to be like.
Yeah, and you kind of talk about like where they're at in a certain sense and wanting to ascend there. I guess in kind of talking about that, like what would represent like a broader goal you have in your MMA career that you really want to actualize into reality?
I just want to get to the highest level I can and put on and just I love fighting. Like that's my like I think it's so fun and so exciting, and so just getting the opportunity to fight on like big stages would be awesome, and that's kind of my goal wherever that may be, and hopefully make some money too. But I just honestly love fighting. I think it's so fun.
Well, it really comes across, and even when you were talking about your earlier foundation in martial arts, like when did, fighting really, catch your attention? Like was there like a defined like epiphany moment almost, or like was it more of just a gradual realization when you were younger that you really enjoyed it?
It was gradual, but it was also like when I was sparring, I was always just in the pocket and swinging, and people were like, "What the heck? Like you're a little girl," and I was like, "Yeah," and I like to swing. I thought it was so fun. So I think just naturally I was like, "This is awesome, and this is what I want to do." Especially because I was such a shy kid and had zero interests before I started getting into martial arts. Like I would cry in a corner of a dance class. Like I didn't want to do anything. So when I started doing that, my parents were like, "What? Like you want to fight and you like to spar these boys?" Because it was always against boys and stuff. And just it was always so fun for me.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Like, I mean, you talk about like a certain temperament almost. Like, there seems to be like a certain like humbleness almost that underpins a lot of this stuff. Like, even when we were talking about some of your, wrestling accomplishments, I mean, you've medaled in some very high up competitions. And I saw a tweet from Riverside Athletics that was almost kind of playing off that from what I could tell, where it was saying like, "Oh, Khaya MacKillop doesn't want you to know, but she's the national champion for U19. So like, how much does that almost like benefit your progression in a certain regard? Because you obviously have a strong acumen already, but it seems like you have a certain like humbleness and groundedness and everything.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it helps. I'm always overlooked a little bit. People don't know much about me. Like I'm kind of the underdog. I go under the radar. I don't like to talk about myself that much. Like I'm working on that part because I know that's important as well. But like it's just I genuinely do this sport because it brings me so much joy, which is so random. And so I think that it helps because I just get to I do it and I don't talk about myself that much, and it just kind of people don't know a lot about me, so I think it's a benefit sometimes, and then sometimes I think it's not great. But it's okay, I'm working on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got a long way to go, a lot more great fights to come, but I did want to, get some insights on your opponent, Miranda Barber, here, because she's someone I've talked to in the past when she was, vying for bare knuckle boxing titles and stuff like that, but also someone with an MMA acumen as well as some gloved boxing experience. And I'm kind of curious, like, 'cause I talk to certain fighters and some kind of veer on the end of like wanting to do like as much tape study as they possibly can on their opponents, whereas some other fighters more want to, I guess, like focus on their own individual expression within the cage and not get too preoccupied with, I guess, what the opponent might do. Like, where are you at in that regard?
I watched my opponent's fights once, and then that's it. I'm not someone who goes crazy into studying them. Like, that's not really my thing. I like to focus on my own game and what I want to do. I'll have other people watch them and give me some tips, but, like, I don't go crazy into watching my opponent's tapes or anything. I will look at them once just to get an idea, and then that's about it.
Is it more of like allocate the game planning to the coaches? I mean, you said we watch the fights like a bit, like once sort of thing. Is that more of a thing that gets allocated to the coaches and then both of you collaborate with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll talk, and we'll talk about it and see what kind of game plan I want and what they think, and then come and figure out how to get that going, and and then go from there and train how I want to fight, basically.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like Pallas Athena Women's Fighting Championship has done such great stuff already, even with this just being their third event. Like, I feel like they've really established themselves in a certain regard. Like, how does it feel to be getting ready to fight for PAWFC? It seems like a strong platform to make the pro debut on.
Oh, for sure. I think it's been such an awesome experience so far, and like everything has been pretty smooth and good. And I think it's really cool to make a pro debut on an all women's, like not even just an all women's card, but like an all women's organization, which is awesome. And it's cool. I'm excited to see the other fights too and meet all these people. So I'm super excited, and it's been a really good experience.
Yeah, the matchmaking is great. I feel like the talent pool is always so awesome, and it seems like Chris Cyborg and Chuck Liddell are doing some appearances too. So yeah, it seems like they're doing some things right, trying to get attention in a cool regard. So love to see it.
For sure. No, I'm super excited for those appearances too, because Chris Cyborg especially, like, she's one of the first women's MMA fighters that someone showed me, and I was like, that is awesome. She's a beast. So I'm super excited to hopefully meet her.
And it would seem like
that was really cool too. But
oh yeah, no, I hear you. I guess what I was gonna say there was kind of related to like what your familiarity might be with the area, because obviously you were saying you're in BC, and it seems like you've wrestled in Western Canada in certain areas. Like, is there a level of familiarity with Calgary specifically, or even competing in Alberta in general, that could benefit you to a certain degree, like through familiarity here, or maybe not so much because it's ultimately a different endeavor than the wrestling, I suppose?
Yeah, like I know Calgary, I have family that lives there and stuff, so I think the only difference for that, like, I think it's different, so I don't know how much it will help me, but this is my first fight that I get to have family at and stuff, so that's pretty exciting. And my parents are coming out and everything, so my friends, so I'm excited for that. That's like different, and I think that not even motivates me, but like gets me excited in a different way versus my other fights where it was just me.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's really something that galvanizes your resolve, because like I know some fighters almost get like a little more like on the nervous side sometimes when they know they're going to be fighting in front of loved ones or whatever, but some really get fired up about it. It seems like you fit that description more so.
Yes, for sure. And of course I'm nervous, but good nerves and like excitement nerves, not scared.
Yeah, no, the excitement comes across for sure. And I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious, maybe this is kind of within what we were talking about before, where you're kind of just focusing on what's within your immediate control, but I guess I'm curious if you maybe have like a certain idea of how you see this fight unfolding, just because I talk to certain fighters who are very heavy into visualization, and it seems like within that they, I guess, develop like a predominant visualization for how they see the fight ending. Is that something you practice at all? And if so, like, how do you see the story of the fight unfurling, I suppose?
I do practice visualization, but also when I go into fights, my biggest thing is a win is a win. So as long as I come out with a win, I'm happy. And yeah, I think that it's going to be, like, she's obviously a very tough girl. So I think it's going to be fun and it's going to be exciting. And yeah, it's going to be she's definitely a tough opponent. So it's going to be a challenge as well. And I'm ready for it.
Yeah, it's such an exciting fight, and I really appreciate making some time to talk before the exciting fight. And I feel like this is the first of many great professional fights you're about to have and everything. So yeah, thanks so much for all of that, and just really excited for PAWFC 3. But, curious if maybe you have a final parting thought you'd like to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here, though, Khaya.
Thank you so much for having me on here, and I'm just really excited, and I'm ready to make my pro debut and show everyone my fighting.
Yeah, I was going to say, if your amateur fights are any indication, and just the time even between, I feel like the development is going to be that much more noticeable, which is a very exciting proposition. And yeah, definitely stoked for this Miranda Barber fight. Should be a stacked event overall on March 9th. So thanks so much for coming on MMA Canada Radio and giving such great insights. Looking forward to peeping this upcoming fight, but until then, you enjoy the rest of your day, and yeah, thank you so much.
Sure, thank you so much. Have a lovely day.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be chatting with an individual competing at PAWFC 3, Pallas Athena, returning to it on March the 9th, and bringing some Muay Thai action, which is going to be very exciting. We've got Chara Dimitrola taking on Stephanie Quigg, and very excited to have Stephanie on Bowks Talking Bouts for the first time. How are you doing? You having a good day so far?
Yeah, so far it's been great. It's Sunday morning, so I had a nice little sleep in and a bit of a lazy morning, which I needed during this fight camp. So yeah, feeling good and excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's great to hear. And I mean, I talked to fighters at a lot of different points throughout the camp. It seems like when it's like about a week or so out, everything really ramps up, or at least maybe takes on a different shape, even in terms of the mindset. Like, is that the case for you? Like, how much does like a week out differ from maybe the broader, I guess, mindset throughout the training and general prep?
Yeah, I think a week out is when you really feel that you're like starting to peak in terms of your training. So yeah, with like the weight's on point, the training's on point, so you just start to feel really dialed in and really focused. And it's almost a little bit like you get a little more nervous, but you almost feel like you're so ready at this point, like you almost start getting more excited, I find, the week of. So it's a good feeling. This is when you know whether your prep has been good or not. You start to feel dialed in.
Yeah, for sure, and I've been watching you fight for a bit now. It seems like you're very active with, like, Muay Thai in the Calgary area, and, I mean, continuing that broader trend here, but under a different promotional banner. Like, when did, I guess, the dialogue kind of ramp up with Pallas Athena for this particular fight?
When did it ramp up?
Yeah, because I feel like you have fought under different promotional banners in Muay Thai in the Calgary area, yeah.
I knew about Pallas Athena last year, but, I obviously knew it as a female MMA card. So one of the promoters just reached out to my coach and just had this matchup. And this was about probably 8 weeks ago, and I was on vacation in Mexico at the time. So my coach waited till the day I got back, and then just let me know this promotion is looking to match you with a girl from Greece. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. Like, she would look like a good opponent, solid opponent. And from what I'd heard about this promotion, they're a great promotion. And yeah, so we just, you take opportunities as they come, and this was a great one. I was super excited about it, and they've been wonderful to work with. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, different style, MMA promotion. It's cool.
Yeah, and I love that you have that mindset, because that's sort of how I was feeling, more from like a, I guess, layman, kind of like observer sort of perspective. Because I know Pallas Athena, certainly, for what they've been able to do so far with MMA, but I love all kinds of martial arts. I think it's so great to have like Muay Thai on the same card as MMA. I think that's cool. They're kind of going in that direction.
Because there's no reason you can't sort of blend those fans together, right? Like, people just like to watch fights. So I think if you can blend it the way, like, for example, One Championship has done so successfully, it makes a lot of sense. And then especially with Calgary, because we do have promotions, and we have like a fight fan audience in Calgary. It just makes sense to me to start blending it, and then you just get more fans coming out to the shows. You get the MMA crowd, you get the Muay Thai crowd, you get the general just fight crowd, fight fan crowd. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
And it seems like in recent years there's been like a certain almost like growth and like ripple effect in a certain way with Muay Thai. Like, you talk about One Championship and what they've done, and I've talked to different people in Canada, like Kieran Kettle and a few other people like heavily involved in the space. It seems like Muay Thai in Canada has really grown and benefited from, I guess, the broader kind of focus on Muay Thai. And obviously you're very heavily involved in high level competitions. I'm curious for your perspective in that regard. Like, have you really noticed that kind of growth of the sport domestically?
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, I've been doing Muay Thai now for, it's like 15 years or so. So I have definitely seen a major shift. I think social media plays a huge factor in that too. Just connecting, people globally. But yeah, there's just been this explosion. I think it used to be,
much more sort of like, this like sub community. It was really niche. Like most people hadn't heard of it, and now I just see it growing and exploding. And people come to it for different reasons. Not everyone wants to fight, but even just like the growth of our gyms here in Calgary, the amount of people that are interested in coming to train, and it's definitely. I think it's a few factors. Like one has definitely played into it, one championship, but I think as well just social media in general. And Muay Thai is just really exciting. So I think if you can get it out to the mainstream, people will like it. But it's just giving that, giving ways for it to get out there. It's been cool to see. It's very different than when I started.
That's interesting. I mean, you talk about how it was like more of like a niche kind of like tighter community in a certain sense, like not like the exact wording, but like something of that persuasion. I guess even in kind of saying that, like what drew you to Muay Thai? Like what got you involved in it initially?
Yeah, so I was living in Toronto when I started, and there was a gym down the street for me, and I'm not sure I would have even noticed it, except my cousin was really heavily training Muay Thai in Calgary at the time. And she had told me all about it, and she was so in love with it, and she was so fit, and she just, she was sparring and doing all these cool things. And so there was one near my house, so I was like, I should just try it out one day. I'd always been into athletics and fitness, so I was like, let's give it a go. And it was one of those things that just kind of snowballed. Like initially I just started just to try it out for fitness, see how I like it. And then, you see people sparring, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll try sparring eventually. And I try sparring, and I like it. And I'm like, maybe I'll try a smoker fight. And then you try a smoker fight, and you like it. And I'm like, well, maybe I'll try an amateur fight. And then it just sort of goes from there. And, the more you get into it, the more you fall in love with the community of it, the discipline and hard work of it, like the confidence it gives you. And then next thing you know, 15 years later, you're fighting professionally. So it's been one of those like slow progressions over the years.
And I would think you would have a unique perspective on it because, I mean, you got into the sport and it seems like you've largely trained out of the same gym through the entirety of the stretch. And it seems like there's as much as, that the foundational elements that we were kind of talking about there, like your cousin Kendra still very much involved in the sport. But I'm sure you see like more, sparring partners and prospective Muay Thai fighters coming in and everything like that. So it's probably interesting anecdotally to see that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's been fun. Just the opportunities, the style, everything's just so different what's out there now for people. And it's been cool to see. It's been really cool to see.
And I guess just in terms of specifics on your opponent, like you kind of touched on a certain level of knowledge with them. I'm curious as to like maybe if you've delved into like a certain level of tape study, or maybe that's something you kind of allocate to your coaches and then you guys interface the respective approaches. Like how do you go about that, I suppose?
Yeah, so obviously when the opponent's offered, you look into them a little bit, and thankfully with social media and the way the world is now, there's usually footage online. So you just look into it, make sure the experience level and everything is a good match. And we knew it was, and I'm at the point in my career where I'm not going to say no to a lot of fights at this point. Like it's a fight's a fight, and looking at I did research. Like you always look into it a little bit, just so you can have somewhat of a game plan or at least have a sense. But knowing that on fight day it could be anything in front of you that it could surprise you. But it looks like I actually can't find any Muay Thai footage. So as far as I can see, she is mainly MMA and K1 kickboxing. So it'll be interesting that way if she hasn't fought Muay Thai rules before, or maybe she has, it's just not on film. So then it's just kind of looking at her sort of overall style, and then going from there. I don't game plan too much in the sense that you just never know. Like people do surprise you, and so you make sure you're ready for anything. But you kind of have somewhat of an idea of their style, what they might be like, the trends of their last fights, that kind of thing. So, I think it'll be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, and it sounds like a good mentality to have for this kind of matchup because it exists in a way where you're like, yeah, I can see certain Muay Thai strike, or rather MMA striking and like K1 striking, but it also seems like even if there was like an ample amount of Muay Thai footage, you wouldn't be like, I guess, solely resting on what you see with that. Like there'd still be some level of, I guess, being adaptable and trying to collect some intel within the fight. So yeah.
Yeah. Because you never want to get stuck in a fight where, you know, you have a very strict game plan. And let's say round one, they come out with something absolutely different. And then you spend a whole round just trying to get, you know, familiarized with that. And like the game plan goes out the window. So you certainly have one. But just sometimes, I mean, a fight's a fight. Like, who knows what's going to happen, right? So I always make sure I'm a little bit ready to adapt to whatever style's in front of me. I did do lots of sparring, though, with some MMA fighters at MMA gyms. So just to help me get used to different styles, different stances, you know, assuming it's not going to be like a traditional Muay Thai fight. So I make sure I'm ready for whatever's put in front of me.
Yeah, for sure. Who's been like giving you those MMA looks? Is it like a core kind of like few people, or is it just like, I guess you're more so like in an MMA space for this particular camp and there's like an ample amount of people, I guess?
Like, who did I spar with for?
Yeah, essentially, yeah, like some of the MMA fighters.
Yeah, so I had a great opportunity to get over to Champions Creed. So that's one of the main like MMA gyms here in Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I made sure, because I've never been in a cage before, and that is very different doing Muay Thai in a cage versus in a ring. So I got lots of opportunities to go over there and spar the MMA guys over there. So get to move around in a cage and then move around with the MMA guys, you know, that have different styles, different stances, move a bit differently. The timing's a little different. Yeah, it was like super, super helpful. I was really thankful I got to go over there.
That's a very interesting variable you touch on. Like, I'd be curious to get your insights on that. Like, I guess, like, maybe speaking to, like, a layman who may not understand, like, the specific differences between Muay Thai in a ring versus inside of a cage. Can you kind of explain some of those nuances? Like, maybe how it, I guess, reshapes the approach in any way?
For sure. So there's a couple ways. Like, the big one is, obviously in a ring, it's a square and you've got corners. So you have this ability to try and corner somebody. And so, you know, you can actively like push people against the ropes, push people in, you know, use footwork, angle, like cut them off to try and get them in the corner. And that's a really advantageous position. And then on the flip side, you can also use the ropes yourself. So, you know, you can, if someone's like pressuring you and your back's against the rope, you can sometimes even lean back on the rope, keep them away, you know, push kick them away, angle out, or you can use it like I do like to clinch. And the ropes can be really beneficial in the clinch setting. Then you get in a cage and all of a sudden you have no corners. So people have the ability to be way more evasive and run away from you. So it's much harder to like really angle, and you can't corner somebody. Getting them up against the cage is also good, but you just don't have that same like flexibility you have with the ropes where you can kind of lean into it the same way. And then on the flip side, you don't want your back against a cage. So whereas like I can still be in an advantageous position with my back against the ropes, I'll try and get out of there, but like I can still make it work. Whereas like you just don't want your back against a cage. So and then on the flip side, it's also nice because in a cage, I can be more evasive too. Like you just have more room to move. So yeah, so cutting off the ring becomes very different when you're in a cage. And it'll depend on what she brings, whether she's evasive or aggressive. You know, I just want to make sure you're not chasing someone too much in a cage, and that sort of thing. So it's actually quite different in a way that, you know, you might not realize if you don't fight. But it does change things up quite a bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I watch a lot of fights, and it seems like there's definitely differences, and I'm sure there'd be some people who would be curious about something like that. And I feel like I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this, just because, I mean, even with the Muay Thai, you were kind of talking about it like, oh yeah, I sort of grew over time. Like, I'll train a bit, I'll take a smoker. Now I'm fighting professionally. Like, is anyone getting in your ear about maybe trying out MMA, or are we thinking mostly sticking with the Muay Thai?
No, I'm definitely definitely just sticking with Muay Thai. I'm at the tail end of my fight career because I am a bit older. So I'd love to learn jiu-jitsu. I've tried it once and I did enjoy it. So I would love to learn all that kind of stuff. But it's just too far into my career at this point. I wouldn't want to have to make such big changes, and the growth would be huge. And for me as well, I am a bit of a traditionalist. I love Muay Thai, and it's been sort of the love of my life the last 15 years. So I really would love to stick it out and finish my career in Muay Thai. But I respect MMA and I am a fan. But I just think at this point in my life, it'd be a lot. It'll be my retirement plans to learn jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's a fun martial art. I'm actively not good at jiu-jitsu at all, but it's a fun time.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, you talk about like repping for Muay Thai, and that's something I very much have noticed, like just some of the events you've participated on over the years. Even like I referenced some of the Muay Thai World Cup competition and vying for a WBC Canadian title previously, but also even that United Strong Muay Thai Gala celebrating women in martial arts last year. Like, just really cool stuff. Like, is that something, I mean, you're talking a couple times about like kind of being, I guess, more at the tail end of the competitive career. It seems like you really want to continue on being maybe like an ambassador or trainer or something in Muay Thai thereafter. Is that a fair way to, yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's such a huge part of my life, and I really enjoy coaching. And I think it's important too to have a space for like women's Muay Thai. So yeah, no, I think that even when I'm done fighting, that'll be a huge part of my life, and I'll continue coaching. And I'm like a true Muay Thai nerd. I love it. I geek out on it. I love technique. I love sharing knowledge, teaching. So yeah, it'll definitely continue to be part of my life. Because I think it's just been such an important part of mine. So I definitely want to keep sharing that even as I get older and not fighting anymore.
Well, it's just such a cool community. Like, even it seemed like you were traveling around a little bit like a few months ago, and it seemed like you were getting in some great looks at like Ontario gyms and just kind of scattered around. Like, it looked like you were at a Diamond Muay Thai seminar in Toronto, and we're at like Big Hawk Lake and stuff like that. So cool to see just the, I guess, community and culture all throughout the country and all.
Yeah, I've made really great friends. Through like, it just is such a great community. Some of it is just, I'm from Toronto, and then when people come to fight here, you offer up your gym for them to come use. You form friendships. You form, with people I respect so much. I love to train with, get new opportunities for coaching, new opportunities for training partners. Like, there's so many great gyms in Canada. I've had great experiences at Diamond with Tony and Juliana, and I actually fought years ago, and she's a friend of mine now. And Milton Muay Thai is an amazing gym. I've been at Muay Thai Academy in Vancouver. They're incredible. Like, there's just so many gyms throughout Canada now, and it's really cool to see. And so I like forging those relationships and keeping that community strong, because I think it's important to share knowledge and keep those relationships strong.
Yeah, so well said, and so exciting to you just see the growth of the sport in the country and everything like that. So super exciting what's already happened, but I feel like there's many more chapters in the story too, which I'm sure is very exciting for you. Like you said, 15 years immersed in this and everything.
Totally, yeah. So it'll be cool to see where it all goes.
Yeah, for sure. But the immediate chapter, at least in your story, going down on March 9th there, and to reiterate, I appreciate you making some time to talk, a mid-fight week and so close to everything. But I did want to kind of, put the ball in your court. But I was just wondering if maybe you had like maybe a thought we didn't touch on, or just anything you maybe wanted to add as we were kind of wrapping up. I appreciate the time, Stephanie.
No, I think mostly just that I'm really excited about this card in particular. I think it's going to be a really great night of fights. I think it's a unique event, and this promotion does an amazing job. So I'm just stoked to be on it, and I'm excited about this fight in particular. I think it's going to be a fun one. I think it's going to be a good, hard fight. And I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome card. PAWFC 3 going down on March 9th, as I was saying, and some exciting Muay Thai action against Chara Dimitrula among what is a stacked MMA card as well. And just, yeah, really looking forward to seeing all of that when it goes down. But until then, you have a great rest of your day, Stephanie, and just really appreciate the time and insights.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Have a good rest of your day as well.